When last we were here, I basically did what was the game review equivalent of shooting a bunch of fish in a barrel, and the fish were filled with magnets to better attract bullets. If you don't recall, we tackled about 10 indie games that were but a fraction of those saturating the PlayStation storefront. It was about as fair and constructive as you've come to expect from me, to be honest. The downside is that's one video for 10 games, so I'd have to actually, play something new this week and put some effort in. I trotted over to Steam first, but a couple of devs were busy vomiting up hundreds of DLCs, so I figure I'd leave them be. So I held my nose and went back into the mire of stench that is the PlayStation Store, and emerged with the game covered in the least amount of shit. A game about gangsters, guns and aliens, Timothy's Night. But before we get into that, let's have a word from our sponsor. That's right, I can sell out too, but only to the products I truly believe in. This week's review is brought to you by the makers of hydrogen-free water and bread-free toast. Sustenance without the substance. If you're a fan of this channel, then God, you make some questionable choices, but you will also remember that I did a first impressions of this very game several days ago. I played it for about 40 minutes and determined that it was alright. I then powered through the game and finished it by the next day and determined that it was still just alright. Timothy's Night follows an old-timey gangster named Timothy, who is the top dog in Little Fish City. His happy life of being a shit is interrupted by an alien invasion. With no sign of police or army, it's up to Tim to show the aliens what for. And Independence Day these fuckers to get back his shitty little town. It's not a particularly deep or complex plot. I suspect it's meant to be humorous, and, it sort of is. It's a 1940s gangster fighting alien squids. It's a fun concept. The game is an open-world, third-person, shooter-stroke platformer, and it does put itself together pretty well. The open world, for one, is only as big as it needs to be. It's not a typical open world that is about 8 times bigger than it needs to be, where the commute is stretched out to the point of putting a player to sleep. No, Timothy's Night knows better than that, in this one area. You will spend most of the game running around looking for dynamite, which you need to blow up a wall to get inside a building that's below the alien mothership, which does let the game down a bit, being one big glorified fetch quest, with little in the way of interesting obstacles to overcome. But once you've done this, you take the fight to the aliens inside their ship. In this case, that fight is just doing some basic platforming and shooting a few dudes, and then you win. I do want to be kind to the game, because as harsh as I'm going to sound, and probably already do sound, I don't actually harbour hatred for it. There are things I like about it. I like the music for one thing. As a fan of the blues and big band music, it's quite appealing to me, and it certainly fits the theme the game is trying for. I even like the detail where between the music tracks you can hear someone sort of playing around with an old-timey radio dial to tune into the new song. It's quite cool. I'm less keen on the repeated news segments that interrupt them, but they're short and fairly easily ignored. What's harder to ignore is the inconsistent colour palette though. See, the game aspires to have this drab noir aesthetic with its monochrome characters, cars and buildings. However, the colourful aliens, crates and bright red London phone boxes and random red fire hydrants are at best distracting, at worst completely undermining of the visual theme desired. And it gets to a point where the characters look out of place in their own world. These cartoonish black and white lads and lasses who make me think of a Prohibition-era Mario, they look like the imposters here. But that's all colours and sounds, I hear you cry. How does the game play? Well, on the platforming side, it plays absolutely fine. Tim reliably grabs ledges, he's got a generous jump height and distance. The platforms themselves blend nicely into the environment. They're mostly construction sites with scaffolding, but I think they're used well enough and it doesn't come across as contrived. But the shooting, not so good. It doesn't feel satisfying for one thing. For another, aiming feels slow and inaccurate. I think it's because of how little zooming the aim function provides. Tim's left far to the side of the screen and lining a shot up is a pain. Wouldn't be so bad if the weapons were fun to use, which they mostly aren't. You get a total of 4. Tim's starting pistol is piss weak but has infinite ammo. I think that's a fair balance, I suppose. A Tommy gun that deals okay-ish damage but burns through its limited ammo like a bitch. Not quite as good, but whatever. A double-barreled shotgun that seems rather weak for the type of weapon it is, and even at close range it doesn't feel like it's hitting things properly. But then, finally, you get a bigger pistol that deals a good amount of damage, has a respectable ammo cap, and is very accurate. Well, at least we end the weapons on a strong note, eh? In theory, this stronger pistol would be balanced by the fact that its ammo is really limited. However, though it does use consumable ammo, this is never really an issue. You see, alongside the piles upon piles of money that you will see just lying around this city in true video game style, the game also generously leaves plenty of ammo around for your guns. Even if you can't find the ammo, the aforementioned money can be used to stock up on a ton of the stuff. There doesn't seem to be a cap for how much you can carry, so you can basically just go nuts. Same with healing items. I didn't need to buy many because I was never hit that many times, but I never seem to see a limit is my point. The same also goes for grenades, which are frankly broken. See, the aliens are mostly melee focused, with even the big purple lad that can do some shooting deciding the best move is to crowd around you. Let them get close, pop a grenade and be done. They explode on impact, deal a lot of damage with a generous radius, and don't do much to harm the user, so you might as well go nuts. Combat was already barely worth doing, with grenades in your arsenal it's a complete joke. What's worse is the combat itself offers no rewards for getting involved with. See, the aliens aren't a threat. They're supposed to be, but they're just not. It's actually just really easy to run right past them and not bother with them, and that's mostly what I ended up doing. When you are forced to fight a few waves of the bastards, then you learn really quickly that the only reward for fighting them is a recharge to your slow motion power. Oh yeah, I nearly forgot about that, didn't I? You could do that whole bullet time slow-mo thing, which I rarely used and therefore nearly completely forgot about. Aliens don't drop money or ammo or anything useful, just this slow motion power booster, which kinda helps, but I'll be honest with you, I only really used it because I remembered it was there and I kinda felt bad ignoring it. It's like how I feel bad if I leave a shop without buying anything. I don't grab something because it's useful or particularly important, it's just so I feel better. There are upgrades to your character himself. You can get more health and more bullet time, but they're tied to random good aliens scattered around the place. A couple are hidden behind planned combat encounters, but by this point I have more grenades and ammo than I have reasons to live, so the combat was over fast, and the upgrades aren't particularly necessary. The most threatening things you will find were the aliens in their flying saucers, who did a little bit more damage than the already pitiful amount done by their ground comrades, and they take a lot of ammo to defeat, but they're not hard, it's just a drag. That's the combat as a whole, not really difficult, just kind of a pain. Even the final boss follows the game's pattern of shitty enemies. It's this massive alien queen that has 6 really obvious and exposed weak points. Combine this with its expert strategy of attacking the ground where I was standing 5 minutes ago, and you're left with something that's not so much a real boss as a slight obstacle that is easily overcome. I died once in the whole game. An alien ate me because I didn't know they could do that. Once I knew, I just kept a minimum distance and got through the rest of the game with ease. Now there are some side missions. You can take time from fighting an alien invasion to look for old hot dogs, missing parcels, or bits of fish for some old woman's cat if you so please. Here's the thing though, first of all, these are just basic collectible missions, fuck off. Secondly, whatever reward they must offer cannot be anything of value because I beat the game without completing a single one of these missions. Third, fuck off with this shit. I'm so sick of a hero having to take time out of saving the world to do some chores for some random people. Maybe early game, before they're established as the only hope, but when Tim has shown he's the only one capable of fighting the aliens, it just seems a bit weird him being willing to do this. Also, you're a fucking mob boss, Timmy me boy. Why the hell are you agreeing to do these things at all? And follow up, where the hell are your people? Tim's supposed to run this town. There are rival mobsters dotted around the place, so why doesn't Tim have any muscle? There are some other things to quickly shit on. Firstly, the game uses the PS5 controller speaker a lot. Stop it. It's a fucking stupid gimmick and it's really distracting. My TV has perfectly good speakers as all, maybe use them. There's also the vehicle sections, which handle like arse. I say sections. There's only one time you ever needed to drive. That's a fucking mercy. They're sliding and awkward and you can't even move the camera while driving. After that one mission you need a car for, I never bothered with them again. It's a small city, it's easy to just walk. Finally, a 2-for-1. In the sewer level, that's part 1, the fact that the game has one of these and games need to fucking stop it with the sewer levels. There's this section which is slightly dark, right? And the game physically stops you from walking into it as Tim goes, "It's too dark," and won't proceed until you turn the lights on. You what, Tim? It's bad enough to have another video game protagonist with no swimming ability, but one that's also afraid of the dark? Fucking hell, this is a very questionable game. But look, as I said, I don't actually hate it. It's alright. Playing it doesn't inspire any strong emotions one way or the other. All of its problems, while definitely there, aren't really deal breakers. It's not a very long game, you can beat it in 2 to 3 hours, maybe less, but it's basically an alright experience. As far as some of the indie games we've given coverage to go here, it's certainly not the worst thing ever. I do think it's a bit overpriced at 15 quid for a relatively short, mundane experience, but I'm not left feeling particularly bad, mad, or enthralled. Once this goes up, I'll probably forget the game ever existed. It didn't exactly push any boats out, we've seen its kind before, we will again. It's alright, but nothing special, and I cannot think of a decent line to end on, so here's a picture of an angel smashing into a window. Thanks for watching, be sure to check out the other content available on the channel, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. You can also support the channel on Patreon from as little as £1 a month. Check out the link in the description. Thanks in advance, and we'll see you next time.